We've got some breaking news here. The great state of Texas has officially bussed illegals from their southern border into the swamp of Washington, D.C. In this video, we're going to take a look at the bold Texas drop-off of illegal immigrants just blocks from the Capitol. We're going to look at the latest with the state of Texas building the southern border wall. And stick with the very end of this video when I'll reveal why all of this is Joe Biden's worst possible nightmare imaginable. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote. So come on into your Patriot Professor's Den, where I help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. If you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. But first, as you know, last week I shared via email about the difficult circumstances surrounding this channel at the moment, and your support, gang, has been absolutely enormous, to which I can only say a heartfelt thank you. Now, obviously, if you're on my email list, you have some insight into what's been going on here. But I want to go more in depth with all of you, about the future of our movement and give you all an update. So this Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, I'm holding a totally free meeting for Turley talkers off YouTube so I can share with you about what's really going on. Now, you should know that the platform only holds 3,000 viewers, and tens of thousands of you have responded to my call for support in the last week. So you want to get signed up for this meeting as soon as possible. So just click on that link below or go to change.turleytalks.com/meeting right now to sign up for this movement update. It will be recorded, so if you can't make it, you're not going to miss out. So go ahead, sign up by clicking on the link below so we can email you and text you the link to log on to for Friday. I'll share then more of what's going on. So again, a huge thank you for all of your support. I could not do this without every single one of you. All right, let's dive right in here. This is breaking news. The first of the Texas governor's promised buses full of illegal immigrants has indeed arrived in Washington, D.C. as of this morning. If you're not familiar with what's going on, a couple of weeks back, the bumbling Biden administration announced that they were suspending what's known as Title 42, which was an executive order issued by Donald Trump that closed off the border to migrants in an attempt to help prevent spreading the virus. Biden has announced that that is over. Not that it was doing any good in the first place, as he wasn't enforcing it, but it's another indicator. It's another indicator affirming to immigrants all over the world that our southern borders open for business, as it were. So in response to this lunacy, Texas Governor Greg Abbott threatened to send busloads of illegal immigrants and drop them off at the steps of the U.S. Capitol. In a news conference last Wednesday, Abbott said, quote, to help local officials whose communities are being overwhelmed by hordes of illegal immigrants who are being dropped off by the Biden administration, Texas is providing charter buses to send these illegal immigrants who have been dropped off by the Biden administration back to Washington, D.C. Now, of course, the permanent political class in D.C. dismissed this as a vacuous threat. Circleback Psaki slammed Governor Abbott for what she called nothing more than a, quote, publicity stunt, and that busing any migrants against their will was a clear violation of federal law. So she mocked and ridiculed it, as did the whole of the permanent political class embedded in the swamps of D.C. Well, here we go, gang. It's being reported that just hours ago, the first bus from Texas arrived in D.C. and did just that. They dropped off dozens of migrants just blocks from the Capitol. The bus arrived around 8 a.m. this morning, and just to make sure that it got maximum exposure, the migrants were dropped off in front of the building that houses Fox News, NBC, and C-SPAN. The Texas Division of Emergency Management is leading the effort to transport the migrants from federal custody to D.C. Each bus has the capacity to transport up to 40 migrants, and this is just the first of many more to come. So this is obviously a big win for Governor Abbott and the great state of Texas. It's little wonder that the Real Clear Politics poll aggregate that averages out all the polls has Abbott trouncing his Democrat gubernatorial opponent, Beto O'Rourke, by 8 points. Abbott leads O'Rourke in every single poll taken over the last 3 months. And while Abbott certainly comes across as having rhino tendencies for sure, nevertheless, he's coming through when it comes to the southern border. You may not be aware of it, but Governor Abbott has approved over $1 billion for the sole purpose of continuing to build the wall along the southern border, basically effectively picking up where Trump left off. Back in December of last year, Abbott formally commemorated the completion of nearly 1,000 feet of newly built border wall as the official start, the beginning of this massive building project. And we're even seeing some Texas ingenuity in the process. I've reported on this on an earlier video, how Texas is installing makeshift border walls created from repurposed shipping containers in strategic locations where migrants are likely to cross. And at least this part of the wall, as I understand it, is significantly under budget in terms of the monies that the Texas governor and legislature have already allocated to finishing Trump's wall. And the key here is that these makeshift walls are slowing down the surge on the one hand and also channeling the traffic on the other. And that channeling the traffic as strategic entry points is really crucial here because, as we can see with the busing to D.C., channeling them into specific locations makes it far easier for Texas officials to either arrest them or, in the case of these busings, relocate them to D.C. So that's the latest as to what's going on in the southern border. Both triumph and tragedy, of course, right? And make no mistake, the tragedy is going to be Biden's. The very last thing, the very last thing on the world that Biden needs right now is another massive border surge of illegal immigrants. Of course, it's the last thing the nation needs, but politically speaking, a massive surge, a convoy or series of convoys of hundreds of thousands of immigrants making their way to the southern border just before the midterms, mind you. That is the last thing that this already flimsy, brittle, woke, and weak administration needs. Biden is already hemorrhaging support at the southern border. While it has not been an issue of late, he's had other disasters. The last time we had this crisis at the border, an ABC poll that was, by the way, very skewed to Democrats, nevertheless found that 57% of those polled disapproved of Biden's handling of the situation with migrants and unaccompanied children showing up at the border. That's 6 in 10 voters disapproving of Biden's handling of the border in a poll skewed towards Democrats. So it's probably 7 in 10. And this isn't hard to explain or analyze. If Americans generally reject all things woke, and if President Trump was right, if everything woke turns to shit, including the southern border, then this isn't rocket science. Obviously, the vast majority of voters are going to reject this. And by the way, you can get your own shirt with that immortal saying from Donald Trump, just like what I'm wearing, by clicking on that link below and checking out our awesome merch store. Remember, we need your help now more than ever. And if you want to support this channel, really, there is no better way than to just by treating yourself and a loved one to some awesome Patriot offerings available exclusively at store.turleytalks.com. That is store.turleytalks.com. All right, again, so it's no secret. We're living in an age now where open borders simply don't make any sense to the vast majority of the voting public. What the Biden administration is advocating here cuts radically against the grain of public sentiment. And again, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. And if it's cutting against the grain of the vast majority of the public sentiment, it's cutting across the grain with Democrats. Democrats are radically split over this issue, the issue of the southern border, just like they are with any woke issue. Woke is, as we've been talking about on a number of videos, wokeism splits Democrat voters more or less 50-50 over any particular woke issue. You have half supporting the woke issue, half opposing it. Whereas wokeism unites the Republicans. The Republicans are literally totally unified against anything woke. So wokeism splits the Democrats and it unites the Republicans. It certainly turns off the vast majority of independents. And so you start getting polls like 60, 65% opposition to whatever woke issue is being put forward. It's a guarantee loser in the elections. Just ask Terry McAuliffe in Virginia or Beto O'Rourke, right? We talked about this happening even in left-wing liberal meccas like San Francisco, We had 3 woke members from the San Francisco Unified School Board who were recalled by parents by upwards of 70-80% of the vote. That means it's literally happening everywhere, even in San Francisco. And I think the key takeaway here is there's a reason why Greg Abbott is the winner and Bumblin' Biden is the loser. Everything woke turns to shit, including our southern border. And the vast majority of voters want nothing to do with it. So all of that's to say that I do think that eventually we're going to see our southern border totally secured. But, of course, the question is, how much damage will our woke warriors inflict in the meantime? Well, leaders like Greg Abbott are doing their best to minimize that damage, as it turns out, one bus at a time. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on the legacy media absolutely panicking over Elon Musk taking over Twitter. You're going to absolutely love it. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure to click on that link, and I'm going to see you right over there. God bless.